The countdown to the 2025 MotoGP season starts here. The Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia plays host to 3 crucial days of pre-season testing as we begin to look ahead and find out who's hot and who indeed is not in 2025. Welcome along to the Sepang International Circuit. Louis Suddaby and Jack Appleyard will be with you throughout the next 3 days and indeed next week when we head to Buriram for the final pre-season test after an anniversary season yesterday when we celebrated 75 years of this glorious World Championship. MotoGP is bigger, bolder and better than ever in 2025. And how good does it feel, Jack, to be back?
Oh, fantastic. It is so great to be back ahead of what is going to be an incredible season, a year which you think is going to be legacy defining for so many riders, whether it's Marc Marquez matching that tally of Valentino Rossi's Premier Class World Championships, whether it's Pecco Bagnaia managing to steal back that crown, or we thought whether it's the number one of Jorge Martin defending that number one plate with his new team Aprilia. We thought we'd be given at least a couple of days to settle into things, but this is MotoGP after all, and already just a couple of laps into today we've got headlines aplenty.
Yeah, huge headlines involving the reigning world champion down, potentially out. We await further news on just what it means for Jorge Martin's pre-season program, but he had 2 high sides first thing this morning, the second of which has put him out for the rest of the day. As you say, we thought MotoGP was going to ease us into 2025. It has been anything but so far. We certainly won't be doing it alone here in Malaysia. We also have Kiko, Giles and Elliott York standing by in Barcelona to bring us some expert analysis from over in Europe. Welcome along, guys. What can we expect over the course of the next 90 minutes?
Thank you, Lewis. Great to see you guys in Malaysia, enjoying the weather I see as well. We're here in MotoGP HQ in Barcelona, and wow, what a start to the year it has been. It's important to say, we want your thoughts as well. It's not just going to be myself, Kiko, Giles, and alongside me, Elliott York, for the 3 days. It's you, the fans, too, so get in touch, let us know, and join the conversation. Lewis, MotoGP, faster, forward, fearless, and more dynamic than ever before. So it's really, really important that we get this show on the road. And 2025, beg your pardon, has already been absolutely action-packed, and we've only had a day. Where do we start? We've got a lot of topics to cover. We're going to be here analysing all of them.
Exactly, yeah. Buzzing to be back, buzzing to be analysing MotoGP again in 2025. A busy day already. Me and Kiko are going to be here across the 3 days in Sepang as well as in Buriram as well. So get your comments in, get your topics of conversation in. We want to have a debate here with you guys and between ourselves. We're going to get interactive stuff on the screen as well and talk about numerous topics. So yeah, looking forward to it. And back to you guys over in Sepang for now.
Yeah, exactly. I think, guys,
thanks, guys. As you
you'll
mentioned,
have the stories, and I don't think we've got too long to wait. We've had times coming in already and a little bit of change. So, you guys, take it away, trackside.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Kiko, the fastest lap time actually changed hands moments before we came on air. As I just crane my neck and look over at the timing screens that's right above my head, Fabio Quartararo, the 2021 world champion, has taken back top spot that he held for much of the day. Take those lap times with a little bit of a pinch of salt, though. It is very early days in the test.
Yeah, absolutely. There you can see lap times on the left-hand side of your screen. We have just over 26 minutes remaining. That 1:57.555 from Fabio Quartararo, fractionally faster than what he was able to do in Q2. The last time we were here in November, we'll be doing a lot of that comparison over the next 3 days. But as you say, I think as we go through the next 3 days, 57 isn't going to cut the mustard. We're going to be getting 56s aplenty, I imagine.
Yeah, we were into the 56s at the pre-season test here by the end of it last year, and also that memorable qualifying session here around about 4 or 5 months ago where Pecco Bagnaia did a 1:56.3. So we're going to drop a lot before we get to the end of the test. Well, Kiko used the phrase, didn't he? Faster, forward, fearless in 2025. Well, unfortunately, it's dejected and depleted for Aprilia already. Let's start with the big news of the day and the reigning world champion, Jorge Martin, who crashed twice this morning. The first of those came with some damage to the bike, but not to the rider. The second, though, Jack, very different story.
Yeah, let's bring you right up to speed with exactly what's happened with Jorge Martin, the world champion today then. Overall, just 14 laps completed for the number one. This is him exiting for the first time on the version 2, the new 2020 2025 machine that Aprilia have brought here. He started today with 8 laps on the bike that he finished 2024 on, and then he had a crash at turn 1, a high side. He went back out, and on his first flying lap, this is what happened. A horrendous an off-throttle high side for the new Aprilia man. As a result, he was taken to hospital complaining of pain in both his right wrist, his right hand, and his left foot as well. He currently is still in hospital under observation, and we're waiting for news from Aprilia on whether Jorge Martin will be able to participate in the remainder of this Sepang test. But there was so much optimism, so much positivity, so much excitement down at Aprilia over the last couple of days, Lewis. It took 14 brutal laps for every single ounce of that to be drained out of the World Champions camp.
Yeah, Jorge Martin, his life's work to earn the right to carry the number 1 on board his Aprilia, of course, as it is for this season, having made that switch famously from Pramac Ducati. It's turned to be something of a curse so far. No sooner had he put that number 1 on the front of his bike and gone out on the bike that was due to be the essential development model for Aprilia in 2025. 2 quick fire crashes, and the second of those, it would appear, looks to have put him out. We don't know yet whether that's going to put out of the test or whether it's going to put out tomorrow. We're expecting news very, very shortly, but that doesn't really tell the full story, does it, from an Aprilia point of view? I mentioned that they were depleted. It's not just one rider that they potentially lost, it's 2.
Well, when it rains, it pours, it seems. Aprilia, as we're saying, so much optimism about what was ahead in 2025. Could they take the fight to Ducati? Well, it looks as though they're going to have to go through, certainly here in Sepang, with only 3 riders. That's confirmed, because Ralph Fernandez was another faller today, this time on the run down towards turn 9. The front locked viciously. The bike ended up in 2 or 3 different pieces, and unfortunately for Raul, he does have a break in his right hand. He will be flying back to Barcelona tonight for surgery on that right hand. Confirmed, ruled out for the rest of this Sepang test. Question marks loom over whether we'll see him in Buriram. We'll be speaking to Davide Brivio later in the show to find out the full extent of those injuries. But for Ralph Fernandez, of course, it's the second time that he's been ruled out of the Sepang test on the opening day of it. The exact same thing happened to him just 12 months ago.
Yeah, last year he went down on a wet patch in the early stages of day 1. That certainly wasn't the cause for the crash this time, although there are 1 or 2 reports that it might not have all have been Ralph Fernandez's fault. But either way, the crash that he had earlier on at turn number 9 has put him, well, truly on his back foot going into the season, and this is what was left of his Trackhouse Aprilia, and Jack, there ain't a lot of it left.
No, a big crash. It looks as though from a couple of people that were out trackside watching at that current moment, just as you flick across to the right-hand side of the track on the exit of those 2 fast-flowing turns 7 and 8, the double apex right-handers, it looked as though he was a little bit wide on the exit of 8 and was trying his best to get it back across for 9. As soon as he touched the brakes, bang, the front end went, veered off to the right-hand side, causing all kinds of damage to that 2025 RSGP. And with Raul unable to scrub off any speed whatsoever, he went tumble rolling through the gravel trap, and unfortunately, that's how that injury was sustained. As you can see, very, very tentatively walking away, clutching on to that right hand there. That problem right hand is Ralph Fernandez. Great shame that we won't have him here for the remainder of this Sepang test. And as we say, hopefully we'll be able to bring you more news later on whether we'll see him for the Buriram test. But what a disastrous start it has been for Aprilia. Can you believe it? Jorge Martin only managing 14 laps when debuting that number 1.
Which leaves 2 Aprilia riders left potentially heading into the test. As mentioned, if we get news on Jorge Martin's status for the rest of the test, we'll bring it to you as soon as we have it. But of course, it leaves them with Ogura, who of course is heading into his maiden MotoGP season, the Moto2 world champion, and Marco Bezzecchi, who we'll be hearing from shortly. You spoke to him earlier on in the day. All of a sudden, a lot of burden and a lot of importance is going to be placed not only on the mileage of Marco Bezzecchi, but the feedback that he brings. Let's have a word with Marco Bezzecchi now. He spoke to Jack a little bit earlier on. Well, these are scenes from earlier on in the day. This is Marco Bezzecchi, of course, out on track, and he seemed rather relaxed when he was speaking yesterday over the course of the test. Bezzecchi, of course, moving into a first MotoGP season as a factory rider in the class, and of course, he would have expected it to have started a little bit quieter than it has all of a sudden. All eyes from an Aprilia point of view are on him. Earlier on, as mentioned, he spoke to Jack Appleyard. Let's hear from Marco now.
So, Marco, for lunchtime on the first day here in Sepang, what have you managed to get done this morning? How successful a morning was it?
Yeah, it was a positive morning for us. We tried again the spec from Montmeló, and then we moved to the new spec that was slightly better. So we continue to work on that bike till a few minutes ago. I enjoyed a lot the morning. I felt good on the bike. We have still to try a lot of stuff, but we are working on and enjoying on the box our time together.
Where could you feel those improvements from Barcelona to now?
Well, the electronic side is slightly better. The handling also of the bike is not too bad. So we still have to work a lot because the rear part of the bike is to adjust. But yeah, everything that we tried gave us some positive feedbacks.
When you say rear, is that entry, exit? How exactly is the rear behaving?
Is moving a bit too much.
Obviously, on the other side of the box with Jorge, 2 crashes, both high sides. Have you had any warnings from the rear this morning at all?
Well, we have to ride with the medium from the rear that in Malaysia never gave us good confidence also in the race weekend. So it's a tricky tire. I don't know exactly what happened to Jorge because I was riding, so I didn't saw the crashes, and I didn't know actually that he was crashed twice. But hopefully he's okay, and yeah, I think that when we will put the softer tire, everything will be better.
Just finally, Raul looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the test. Jorge could be out for the rest of the test as well.
Raul Fernandez?
Yeah, so down to 2 Aprilia riders now, 1 being a rookie. Looks as though there's going to be a lot of importance put on the decisions you're going to make for the rest of the test, maybe into Buriram as well. Are you ready to take on that responsibility and guide Aprilia through what's been a challenging start?
Well, I'm ready. I mean, I will for sure give my best. First of all, let's wait for Jorge and for Raul to know their condition. To be honest, you really say this to me for the first time, so I don't know nothing about them. But yeah, in any case, I will try my best, and we will work at the best way possible, and then we try to make a line at the end of the test, and let's see what we saw during these days.
So huge drama down at Aprilia. Marco Bezzecchi speaking there in the moments following the crash of his teammate Jorge Martin. We're joined, as you can see, next to us by factory Yamaha rider Alex Rins. Alex, thanks for joining us here live in Sepang. Before we talk about your day, you, I guess, will have seen what happened to Jorge Martin earlier on. What were your thoughts when you saw what happened?
I saw a little bit on Instagram. The video, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a really bad crash.
Yeah, what do you think happened? What do you think happened?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what couldn't be happened. But it was a really bad crash. I don't know which compound he was using, if the medium or the soft. Can be the medium because it was a strange crash, yeah.
Well, let's talk about your day then. Of course, you've already been here taking part in the shakedown. You also had the very snazzy and glitzy and glamorous launch in Kuala Lumpur late last week. So I guess this is not day one of testing here, but as the day went, how would you react on it, and how do you feel Yamaha are set at the moment?
Yeah, today, for me and I think for all the riders, was a really different, a typical day in Sepang with this strong wind on the track. it forced us to change a little bit the plan. I mean, as you said, it's not my first day. We did the shakedown. We already tried many things, many items. But today our plan was to do a bit of setup in the morning and then try again the new chassis that we tested in the shakedown with some updates. But with this strong wind, we couldn't. So we have 2 more days. We focused today on the test tires from Michelin. All these 3 new front tires that they bring here. So yeah, looking at the lap times, Fabio is going quite fast. I don't know still what he tried, but yeah, looks that Yamaha is doing a really big effort. They bring a lot of new stuff to test here. Some items were going quite good. Some of the others, like for example the chassis, when we try on the shakedown, was not as good as we were expecting, but they are able to do a different configuration that we are going to test tomorrow. So yeah, looking really forward.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how Yamaha develop. The progress was certainly there as we went through last season. We know you're a busy man, so we'll let you go. But thanks very much for joining us, and best of luck for the rest of the test.
Yeah, thanks to you. Yeah.
Alex Rins joining us live on After the Flag. Let's head down to pit lane, though. As mentioned, the big story of the day has been all around Aprilia. Not 1 but 2 riders going down with injury. Jack Appleyard is down outside the Aprilia box and indeed the Trackhouse box to try and bring us some immediate reaction from down in pit lane. Jack, over to you.
We were hoping from the Aprilia guys, the factory Aprilia guys, but they're just waiting for official confirmations of the final checks and scans with regards to Jorge Martin before coming out and commenting on his condition. But the positive news is, for those of you worried at home, that Jorge is okay. Of course, that was a serious looking crash. Didn't look in good shape at all, but the good news is he is sat up, he is speaking to his dad Angel and Paulo Bonora, that I believe are by his side at the moment in the local hospital. One thing we do know for certain as well is that it is Ralph Fernandez, the only rider at this current moment that has been ruled out for the remainder of this Sepang test. Team boss Davide Brivio is with us now. Davide, well, what a frustrating start to 2025. Just firstly, bring us up to speed with what happened with Raul's crash.
Yeah, unfortunately, same as last year. The first day he got injury. Actually, it's a little bit strange because he was calm, taking his time, but yeah, unfortunately, he had a crash entering in a turn 9 on braking, and now he suffered a fracture at the metacarp of the left hand, and we sending him back to Barcelona, and he will try to get the surgery as soon as possible and see. In his head, he would like to be back for Thailand, the riders. And but let's see. Of course, we will listen what the doctors say, how the surgery will go. They will make all the exam, and we will know more in the coming days what's going on.
How likely do you think it is that we'll see Raul at the Buriram test in around a week's time?
Sorry?
How likely do you think it is we'll see Raul in Buriram for the next test?
Yeah, of course he wants to be there, but because Raul said that he had a similar injury 3-4 years ago. In less than a week he went back on a bike, and I think he won a race. But so he hope he can do the same. But as I say, he's going back to Barcelona. I think he will go to Dr. Mir to get a surgery, and we will listen what he say. He has to go further assessment and see how things will go. It's too early to say. Let's say that's the target, but let's see.
Just finally as well, obviously a tough day for Aprilia, not only Raul, but a big one for Jorge as well. In terms of the Trackhouse project, yes, a rookie, but has been impressive so far. With everything that's happened today, is his plan for the next 2 days going to change?
No change. We also quite pleased on how we're working with him, how he's approaching this MotoGP. It's really, I mean, we say it's a kind of a schooling, what we're doing now. He has so many things that he needs to learn, to understand, to know, to discover. And that's what we're doing. Today, after the 3 days of shakedown, we're working more on used tires, electronic setting, to get him the feeling, how is the bike when the tires drop, things like that. So many things to learn, to understand, but it's nice to see him approaching. He's very calm. He makes questions. He tries to understand, and yeah, so far so good. Let's hope, at least on this side, we can continue smoothly on this direction.
Thanks for your time, Davide, and give our best to Raul as well.
You're welcome.
There we go. Great to be able to hear from Davide Brivio after, as we said, a really tough day for Aprilia. Confirmation, Ralph Fernandez out for the Sepang test, but Davide confirming there is hope he can return for Buriram. And we are trying our very best to bring you the very latest on Jorge Martin and whether we will see the world champion back on track over the next couple of days here in Sepang. Back to you, Lewis.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. We keep our fingers crossed that we do see Jorge Martin on track again over the course of the next couple of days. His 2025 season hasn't really started yet. Well, of course, Jorge Martin is the rider that they're all looking to catch, the constructor that they're all looking to catch, and certainly the team they're looking to catch are the factory Ducati squad. And boy, have they broken out the big guns in 2025 as Pecco Bagnaia is joined by Marc Marquez to take a deep dive into Ducati's dream team. We can cross over to Elliott York and first Kiko Giles.
Thanks, Lewis. Yeah, I don't think it's just the big guns. I think it's the big checkbook, because this wouldn't have come cheap. But as Mauro Gracidi said to you earlier, Lewis, in your after the flag midday kind of catch up at the track, we wanted the perfect team in the world, the best team in the world. Look at all these dream teams, guys. 10 world championships, remember that? Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo. And then all the way down, Marc and Jorge at Honda. Then it was Marc and Pecco this year. 8, 7 and 7 all the way down to Marc and Joan Mir in 2023. But it's this one that we want to talk to you about, because what a lineup. This is heavy hitting. This is the big one. This is not just the big one from stats. It's the two personalities, and they're both wanting the same thing, El.
Yeah, Marc wanted to come into this season with Pecco as world champion to compare himself, the 8-time world champion, to Pecco Bagnaia, the outgoing world champion, of course. But Ducati have labelled it their dream team. I think we both agree. I think a lot of the fans will agree as well. This is MotoGP's current dream team. We did post on social media a couple of weeks ago, I remember, and a lot of the comments were Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo. Who do you think are the ultimate dream team in the MotoGP era? Stats say yes. I think currently you have to say, yeah, Rossi and Lorenzo are the current dream team. But this has so much potential to go right for Ducati. It also has potential to go wrong, of course, as well. But, I mean, what a lineup. 81 wins between the pair of them in MotoGP. That's discounting, of course, all the other classes they've raced in and become world champions in as well. So this is a topic that we're going to keep an eye on across this season. And I'm super excited to see how it plays out.
And it was interesting hearing earlier, El, from Mauro Gracidi, the Ducati course, kind of the replacement for Paolo Giabatti, sporting director, if you may, that said earlier when Jack Appleyard pressed him, as he always does. We know Jack, how he is. What's the relationship like? Mauro dodging that one. He'd rather answer it at the end of the year. Ducati know that this is going to be a situation that gets managed right across what is the biggest MotoGP season we've ever had.
For now, it's all rosy in the Ducati box. You know, they're working together. Pecco said in the interview yesterday, until the first race of the season. Important until. They're going to work together to create the best bike possible for them to both be quick on. Then it's every man for themselves. That is when it's going to get difficult for Ducati to try and manage the pair, because, as you rightly said, two massive personalities. Pecco, a lot more reserved, you'd say, both on track and off track, than Marc. Marc is the superstar of MotoGP. Let's make no bones about it at the moment in time. He's the 8-time world champion. He's the benchmark for pretty much everyone on the grid. It's just a fascinating combination for Ducati, and the way they manage it in the team when things inevitably do get a little bit heated at points, because they're going to be battling for race wins from the get-go, you have to imagine. So following that progress, following that relationship is also what we're going to be looking at closely throughout this season. I'm sure the fans as well are really excited to see that part of the story as well.
First point today in Sepang. It looks like Marc has the upper hand, but we have absolutely no idea. It's completely academic on day one. I want to just talk about that 8. It is 8 World Championships MotoGP class, so keep an eye on that because it's actually 10, or actually 11 if you include Pecco's Moto 2-1 and also Marc's 125 and Moto 2-1. But of those titles, only one rider's done it at Ducati. And that means that Pecco, whether he likes it or not, the spotlight's on him. He lost the title last year. He lost the number 1 to Jorge Martin last year. Marc's coming in more equal, you've got to say, than if Pecco was retaining that number 1.
Yeah, and Marc has said it himself. Maybe it's potential mind games from Marc. He's a very clever rider. I want to learn things from Pecco. Now, he's been in the World Championship longer than Pecco. He's got 189 starts compared to Pecco's 108, I think it is. He's a lot more experienced, got more World Championships under his belt. But Marc is coming into a setting that is Pecco Bagnaia. It's 5th season in the factory Ducati setup for Pecco. He is Ducati's golden child, and they've brought in Marc Marquez, the 8-time world champion, who is widely regarded as the most unique and most talented rider that MotoGP has ever seen. That's obviously a topic for debate, of course. Not everyone will agree with that, but he's in the conversation. So it's just a dynamic that we're going to see unfold throughout this season, maybe as early as testing. It started well in Barcelona. They agreed on the comments on the direction they want the Ducati to go in. As soon as FP1 in Thailand starts, that's when you feel they're on this parallel path together. That's when you feel it might start going like that in terms of what they want and how they race each other and how they interact in the garage. It really is a fascinating topic to get stuck into and keep an eye on throughout this year.
And I tell you what, I hope they do. We don't want friendly teammates. Of course, guys, get your questions sent in. Let us know what you want us to debate, what you want us to talk about. This is your show as much as it is our show here in Barcelona and the show of Lewis and Jack over in Sepang. One's just come in. Who will perform better, Pecco or Marc? Wow, straight on the spot with that one. I mean, that's what we want to know. Look at them both. I mean, you've got so much success in red for Pecco. You've got so much success, but not in red for Marc. It's going to be one of those seasons, you've got to say, where it's not going to be determined, even if it's very one-sided early on. We're going to have to see how the story unfolds.
You'd expect Pecco from the off to be performing a little bit better. I think that's what people expect. He's the more experienced rider in the Ducati setup. But as Mauro Grosili was saying, it feels already like Marc's been here for 10 years already, which is an ominous sign. So this is the image that Marc will be hoping he can replicate over the finish line a few times this year. It's going to be so close at the start of the season. And then, I mean, we don't know. You guys at home don't know. That's why it's so fascinating, because none of us know. It's going to be such a fascinating watch right from the word go, including in Sepang.
Tell you what, Pecco said earlier, Pecco, it's his team, but Mauro Grosili said that it feels like Marc's been here forever. Marc has just gone top, just gone top Ducati, P2. So, day one, it's the 93 on top. Lewis, I see you're ready and waiting. 2 minutes left of day one in Sepang. Let's get back to Malaysia.
Yeah, so if we want to look at the rivalry between Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia, I guess you could say it's first blood to the 93, but there are plenty more days of this season to go and plenty more important days than today. This is just the opening day of the season. These are live pictures that you're looking at as Marc Marquez looks like he's called it a day for now. We will see him back out on track shortly for a practice start. And as you can see, right in front of the 93's factory Ducati is Jack Appleyard, who can gauge the mood down at the factory squad.
Yeah, who I have to say, around an hour or so ago, we're going to hear from Davide Tardozzi in the programme later on, but he described it as a so-so day. I feel like the mood might have just switched because, as the guys in the studio back in Barcelona have just pointed out, that little run at the end of the day from Marc Marquez there is going to raise eyebrows, not only in the factory Ducati box, but up and down pit lane. He jumps up to second with a 57.6. That's only a tenth of a second away from what he was able to do in qualifying when we were last here in November. And in a day where they've been trying so many different parts, they've been mixing and matching 2025 with 2024 to try and work out what is going to be the best way forward. For him to go out and do that is going to be something that really, as I say, raises the eyebrows of so many different riders, none more so than we'll leave you before we get the full standings of this man sat next to him in the box, the 63 and the 93. We'll ask him later. I do wonder what Pecco Bagnaia has made of that final flurry from Marc Marquez late on. He loves to grab the headlines, does the 93, and you do feel he's done exactly that on the end of day one here in Sepang.
Yeah, Pecco Bagnaia 17th, as mentioned. That doesn't necessarily mean by any stretch that Pecco Bagnaia is in any kind of difficulty, because of course Ducati have their own program that they're looking to work towards. Of course, it is worth pointing out, of course, in 2025 that there are 2 fewer Ducatis on the grid this season. Of course, it was a great advantage of theirs over the course of the last few seasons that they had 8 of them to choose from and to pull data from. That has been reduced to 6. And of course, we now have 3 factory current spec Ducatis as opposed to 4. Of course, Fabio Di Giannantonio joining Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. Di Giannantonio returning from injury here after shoulder problems, which ended his 2024 season early. He was back on track today, and we can show you in a moment where he ended the day as we take a look once again inside the factory Ducati box. Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez. They both said yesterday when I spoke to them ahead of this Sepang test that until the racing starts, they're fully working together. They are in harmony. They are a team because they both accept that a strong Ducati suits the pair of them. Marc Marquez was pretty clear. He said, a strong bike suits us both, and if we have a strong bike, I will back myself to ultimately do the business. Pecco Bagnaia sounding a very similar tune. But let's take a look then at how this opening day of pre-season testing in Sepang panned out. And Fabio Quartararo, who of course armed with the data from the shakedown, topped the test, a 1:57.555, which interestingly is quicker than he went here in qualifying last October. Marc Marquez just ahead of his brother Alex in second. Fermin Aldeguer making a promising start, top rookie in fourth from Frankie Morbidelli, Joan Mir, and the second of the VR46 Ducatis of Fabio Di Giannantonio. Pedro Acosta, Brad Binder, and Maverick Vinales on a trio of KTMs just outside the top 10. Of course, so much talk around KTM, but they are very clear it is business as usual. Ogura, who impressed, caught the eye at the shakedown test last week, particularly with his sprint simulation 16th, ahead of the former world champion Pecco Bagnaia. Marco Bezzecchi, of course, the first of the factory Aprilias ahead of Enea Bastianini, of course, is now on KTM machinery. Augusto Fernandez, Somkiat Chancho, Ralph Fernandez, Jorge Martin, essentially at the bottom of the standings, quite obviously, because he only did 14 laps in the end. You did see the name there of Andrea Dovizioso at the bottom as well. He has been entered for this Sepang test, but we did not see him out on track today. So as far as the Yamaha are concerned, they won't be getting their hopes up too much at this stage, but Fabio Quartararo does top the opening day of pre-season testing. Practice starts will be unfolding and getting underway very, very shortly. You might be able to see just outside the window behind me, you can see some mechanics building up and getting ready on the pit wall to look at what's going on, and they'll be welcoming Joan Mir in front of them shortly. There is the 2020 world champion on board the very distinctive and I think universally popular Honda HRC Castrol livery for the new season. Of course, they launched their new campaign in Jakarta over the course of the weekend, and our own Jack Appleyard, who will be joining shortly, was there to speak to the riders. Apologies in advance if you hear us calling them Repsol Honda at any stage. Old habits die hard, the habits of around 3 decades. Here is Johan Zarco on another livery that is bespoke with plenty of Castrol green. Johan Zarco, of course, top Honda over the course of last season. The only Honda rider last year to get himself into qualifying 2. Did that on no fewer than 4 occasions as the year unfolded. Pecco Bagnaia pulling himself onto the front row of the grid, which was where he started the Malaysian Grand Prix here last year. Got behind him there as we acclimatise ourselves to the new liveries of this season. Miguel Oliveira on the Pramac Yamaha. Of course, Oliveira partnered now by Jack Miller, who you can see just right up behind his teammate. We did actually speak to Jack Miller earlier on when we were getting ready for the midday live on social media. Jack Miller was watching from trackside and he gave some pretty positive feedback about the Yamaha that he has jumped on over the course of this season. He said the front end was as solid as a rock. There's Somkhat Chantra, who's getting ready to perform something that will be pretty alien to him, I guess. The practice start on the MotoGP machine. Of course, so many parameters, so many different settings, not least the ride height device that Somkhat Chantra has to try and adjust himself to. He also spoke to us yesterday, and Chantra was pretty clear that he'd never had to work with so many different buttons and switches and electronic settings before, and particularly in terms of the ride height device. Honda's is a manual ride height device that they have to operate themselves with a lever out of the corner, unlike the Ducati system, which enables them to pre-book it before the corner. And Chantra admitted that he was letting that ride height device go a little bit too late. He certainly wasn't the only rookie in that respect. Where did Chantra finish the day in the end? As we take a look at the timing screens just above my head, 20th place for Somkhat Chantra over the course of the day. Top rookie, though, as we mentioned, was Fermin Aldeguer. I guess no great surprise from that point of view, of course. Fermin Aldeguer on the motorcycle that won the World Championship last year. Well, we can keep an eye on pit wall. I believe we'll be able to head down to Jack Appleyard, who is down there having a very close look. In fact, before we head to Jack, we'll head back to Barcelona as the dust now does settle on this very first day of official pre-season testing here in Sepang. Kiko and Elliott once again ready to run the rule over what we've seen.
Thank you very much, Lewis. Lots of topics, of course, naturally on day one of the test. Fermin Aldeguer, as you just said, right there, top rookie in third, Marc Marquez second, Fabio Quartararo, big improvements. I just want to touch back, though, on Ducati, because the stats between both Pecco and Marc, besides the World Championships, are pretty interesting. I think me and you, El, could definitely agree on that. When you sit down and you look at the stats right on cue, here they are. So 106 starts and 29 wins. That's a 27.4% win ratio for Pecco. Good hit rate. But then you look on the other side, all of them of which have been, besides 3 in Honda, 189 starts, 62 wins for Marc. 32.8%. So the percentage is actually higher for Marc, who's coming in this year.
Yeah, and you'd expect that. I think, to be honest, those numbers are much closer than what me or you and many people at home would think they would be. Obviously, Pecco in the last 3-4 years has been dominant, won 11 races last year. The only rider to do that in the MotoGP era is Valentino Rossi and a certain Mr. Marc Marquez, who holds the record with 13 in a season. We expected this to be high. Obviously, Marc has suffered a lot in the last sort of 4 or 5 years since that crash in Jerez in 2020. We don't need to go into that again, of course, but he picked up 5 podiums, I think, between 21 and 23, and then he's picked up 10 podiums in 2024 alone. And then he's obviously now moving into the factory Ducati team, where he's going to have all the tools. He said that himself. He's now got all the tools to fight for that lucrative 9th world title. So that's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, close to be fair. When we first saw this, you, as I said, would expect Marc to be higher, but it's pretty close. Obviously, Pecco in the last years has been absolutely amazing.
What's it going to be at the end of the year? We know the starts are going to go up. What are the wins going to say? What's the hit rate?
Well, I think both are going to rise, of course, especially in the win column. Don't talk to me about percentages. I'm not going to try and delve into that.
On air maths.
But for sure, it's hard to say at this moment in time. Obviously, Marc's second in day one at the Sepang test. We're going to know more when we get to Thailand. But for me, they're going to get at least 5 Sunday wins apiece. At least. That's 10 of the 22 rounds. We don't know how quick Aprilia is going to be. Obviously, pretty much a disaster of the day for Aprilia with Martin and Raul injured at this moment in time. But I think everyone will agree at home. Significant rises in the number of wins and the number of starts, and hopefully it's battling all the way to the final round in Valencia between them. But yeah, these percentages and wins are certainly going to rise. If they're not, I'll eat my shoe at the end of this season, because I think we all expect the same.
They're expensive. Don't eat them all at once. Let's get back to Sepang. The practice starts are still going on. Back to you, Lewis.
Yeah, thanks, Kiko. Thanks, Elliott. We'll hopefully catch up with you again as we get towards the end of the show. As you can see behind us, once again, the practice starts continue. And as we mentioned, certainly for the rookies, this is a key 15 minutes of running, because getting off the line on these MotoGP bikes is like nothing they've ever experienced before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw that, a prime example in Barcelona when Fermin Aldeguer head-butted the screen and broke it on his first attempts. This man normally is pretty good off the line, Pecco Bagnaia, but this is a very important period, you feel, for Aprilia as well. Throughout the course of the day, I was an interested observer down by the Aprilia box for obvious reasons to try and get an update of what was happening with Jorge Martin. But during that time, Marco Bezzecchi, time and time again, was doing practice starts out of the end of pit lane. And we know just how much of a challenge it was for Aprilia to get that bike off the line last year. Regardless where they qualified, the Ducatis and the KTM have just got an extra step on them. And in MotoGP, modern day MotoGP, leading into the first corner or managing to hold on to position into the first corner is absolutely critical. So coming into this test, we knew that that was going to be a key area that Aprilia will have worked on over the winter months to make sure they can get that RSGP off the line better.
Yeah, if you have the right ride height device, it's worth a row or two on the grid, isn't it?
Absolutely. Look
if
at
you get it
KTM.
absolutely right. KTM, so often we saw them moving up the order at the start. As we look at Marc Marquez, who ended the day in second place, tempting to get very excited with Marc lifting himself up into second late on behind Fabio Quartararo. That was him getting the front wheel up a little bit as he left the line. We've already been adding the disclaimer. If you're playing a drinking game at home, here's another one. Don't read too much into the lap times that you see. But what have we concretely learned over the course of this first day? What have we learned perhaps that we didn't know 24 hours ago?
Well, looking up at the timesheets, we've learnt with 3 GP24s in the top 5 that still remains quite a good motorcycle. I mean, it goes without saying that those 3 bikes are the only 3 12-month-old machines on the grid this year, which means that those 3 riders are the only 3 on the grid pretty much that haven't had any development work to do. They've been able to come here, focus on themselves, work on themselves, and I think that's evident in the lap times. Another huge positive is the performance of Fabio Di Giannantonio as well. 7th at the end of play. So much talk about whether that surgery, which was a pretty intrusive surgery, had to skip the final 4 rounds of the year, was it? 3 rounds, I believe it was. And it's taken him a good 3 or 4 months to be able to get back to what Pablo Nieto described as 90% fit for this test. The fact that he's gone out there and has been fast immediately, a great sign for Digi. He was already positive yesterday when he spoke to us, adamant that the decision he made was the correct one. I think that's just further proof.
Yeah, I was also craning my neck there just to see how many laps that he did over the course of the day. 49 laps was the brief look that I got there of Fabio Giannantonio. Very on brand for Digi to complete 49 laps, because he said yesterday he certainly came into this test with the aim of completing a normal program, not treating this test in any way as a physical management exercise and trying to limit the mileage. He comes here, of course, with no preconceptions of what that GP25 is like. He hasn't ridden a bike since he finished 4th in the Thai Grand Prix in Buriram late last year. And Fabio Di Giannantonio, of course, he wants to lend his voice to the development path that Ducati are going to take. But, of course, he also wants to try and get as much mileage as he can and make up for some lost ground. And for him to put in nearly half a century of laps today certainly indicates that physically he does feel up to it. Yeah, absolutely. The development hasn't been his key goal today, as you were just alluding to there, Sudders. He has been very much looking at getting himself back to 100% fit, back to bike fit as well, which is so different to just going in the gym and absolutely mullering yourself hours after hours. So as a result, Davide Tardozzi, who we are hoping to hear from very soon indeed, it'll be interesting to put those questions to him. It's almost as if there's been 3 different levels of motorcycles out there for Ducati today. The GP24s, which of course we won't see improve throughout the course of the year. Digia, who's been on that stock GP25, shall we call it, and then the 2 factory boys of Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia, who, as I said, down in pit lane, have been playing about with things today, throwing different 24 pieces at the 25 and vice versa as well, just to get a real understanding of where they go from here to make sure that that package that they homologate, certainly engine-wise, but for a couple of other things, including aero as well, is as competitive as possible by the time we go racing for the opening round of the year. Good stuff from this man as well, I think it has to be said. A lot of the headlines in the shakedown were grabbed by Ogura. I think we'll touch later on in the show about not only his 1-lap pace, which was right on course with what Pedro Acosta was able to do 12 months ago, but his race rhythm as well. 17-lap simulation he did, which over those 17 laps was by 0.3 of a second quicker than what Maverick Vinales was able to do here in the Grand Prix in November. It would have been good enough for 8th spot, but Fermin Aldeguer, despite not able to put that kind of a run together because due to his size, they spent nearly all of the test just trying to get him comfortable. Finally was able to, a bit of a longer run today, a first little bit of a time attack, and both Frankie Carcetti and Michele Massini very pleased indeed. They feel his sprint rhythm, from what he's shown so far, only around 0.4
half a second lap adrift of what the very best were able to do when we were last here. Not bad for a rookie.
No doubting the talent of Fermin Aldeguer. Although he didn't win the Moto2 World Championship last year, as many expected him to, there were clearly signs of the phenomenal talent that he possesses, and he is still barely 20 years old. Well, let's hear from the fastest rider of the day. A positive start to the Sepang test for Yamaha, but how positive? Fabio Quartararo gave his reaction at the end of the day.
Yes, Fabio, take us through this day of test, the items that you have been testing.
Yeah, basically, was just we test some electronics today, some few settings that basically we test a lot during the shakedown, but just was a reconfirmation, and was a good day for us, especially for the engineers to know a little bit more the direction we have to go.
Also, during the shakedown, you tested swing arm, chassis, probably engine specification. How do you think? Is that a step forward?
Well, I don't want to be too positive from the beginning. I think that we work in a good way. It's only the first day of the test. We have to see also the others. We can see already many of them went super fast on their first day. It's already 3 days we are here, so we have to be neutral and try to work well, and we will see where we are in Thailand.
And lately, what do you think about Martin crash?
Well, I have nothing to say. It's a crash. Everybody can crash in this kind of situation, in this kind of corner. We are riders. Everybody can fall. So it was really unfortunate for him in his first day, and I'm wishing him the best recovery. I don't know what he have, but wishing him a speedy recovery.
If I don't remember wrong, you had a similar crash in that corner?
No, was not.
You never.
Was not me. I think was Marc in.
Was Marc following
2019,
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fabio Quartararo certainly was close to that particular crash, but it was Marc Marquez right behind him that had that crash. That was our first thought, wasn't it, when we saw that Jorge Martin crash, the footage of it. Very reminiscent of what happened to Marc Marquez in 2019. Certainly keeping his excitement under control there was Fabio Quartararo. He's been around long enough. This is his 7th season now in MotoGP. He knows the game. He knows exactly how it works. But from a Yamaha point of view, there were clear signs of that progress last season. There were clear signs that, certainly with Fabio Quartararo's results, that they were moving in the right direction, even if the progress perhaps wasn't as rapid as their many fans might hope. With double the data this season, do we expect that progress to accelerate?
Yes. Very simply, from speaking to a couple of people within the paddock that are working for different manufacturers, both of them really strongly said that they can see from the outside, it's always different inside the belly of the beast, but Yamaha have a plan. It's quite clear that they have a roadmap that they're looking to try and tick off every little bit on the way, whether it's the signing of Max Sterlachini, whether it's the addition of 2 more factory bikes in the form of Prima Pramac Racing and Jack Miller and Miguel Oliveira. But Yamaha certainly are going about things in the right way. And interesting what Fabio was saying there as well, similar to sort of the vibes I was getting earlier on this morning. He's not jumping for joy. Paolo Pavesio, the man that steps in inside of Lynn Jarvis this year, was quick to put a lid on things and say, look, I don't have a magic wand. I can't just arrive and on the first day I've managed to magic up the equivalent of 2 GP25s in the Yamaha box for us to go and fight for the World Championship with. MotoGP doesn't work like that, but steps have been made in the right direction, and with those concessions, steps will continue to be made throughout the course of the year. One thing is for certain, as a result of that shakedown, they seem pretty happy on the engine spec that they're going to go into the opening round of the year with the aero. Still a little bit to play with, but the base premise of the aero, the base package, seems to be there as well. The big question is the chassis. Quite 2 of them in particular we saw in both Fabio and Alex Rins' side of the box, so that's still something to be decided. And then, as we said, throughout the course of the year, they are going to improve. They are going to bring more bits, because it's been spoken about at length how the mentality in Yamaha is oh so different now. It's that European mentality that the riders have been crying out for, where they're happy to take risks, they're happy to make those big steps. And if it fails, no problem. We go back to the drawing board, but at least we're trying. And that is exactly what Fabio Quartararo wanted before signing that big money contract, and that's exactly what he's getting so far.
Yeah, 'cause of course in the run-up to signing that contract, there were one or two signs of the frustration starting to creep through with Fabio Quartararo. Once that contract was signed, and of course he'd made his bed, he had to lie in it. Fabio Quartararo certainly sounding a mature tone over the course of the last year and a half or so, and of course a rider's motivation and a rider's morale is certainly going to be helped if he can see the tangible signs of progress on the stopwatch, and certainly the signs are there at the moment. The Yamaha are progressing. So let's head back to Barcelona once again and back to HQ for some more analysis where Elliott and Kiko are waiting for us. Kiko.
Thank you, Lewis. Yeah, Yamaha, you've got to say, it's more than just Fabio being quick. There have been times already on day one at Sepang that the other Yamaha riders are there. Alex Rins maybe at the end dropping down, but Jack Miller's in 8th if I check the standings. Miguel Oliveira is 10th. So 3 Yamahas in the top 10 at the end of play, day one. That's all well and good. Let's see how it transpires across the rest of the test, not just this test, but also in Buriram. But the signs of progress are there, and that's really important. I mean, we've spoken before about Fabio's naturally gifted. And if someone of that natural talent can't get it right, probably it's not just him at that moment. The bike needs work.
Oh, no, for sure. Everyone knows at home as well how fast Fabio is. Winner in 2021 of the title, and then obviously was 91 points clear in 2022, and that since the German GP, which is his last win in 22. It's all obviously gone downhill since. But the last half of last year, I think he got 5 top 10s in the last 8 races last year. Alex Rins got a couple as well. Signs of progress being made at Yamaha in last year, in the Barcelona test, and now through testing here as well in Sepang. So signs are definitely up. The confidence is up. We can see some times coming up on the screen in a moment's time. We just have a little bit of a look at how much things have improved for Yamaha over the last sort of year or so.
Don't forget, let us know your thoughts at home. Join the conversation. Have your say. It's open 24/7. When we come off air from After the Flag, keep them coming in. We'll address them tomorrow. First one in. Have Yamaha made a step? I think, El, you've got to say yes, because 100%. The time is not quite as quick at the end of at the end of test last year. We'll have them on the screen in a moment, the times from last year across day one and at the end of the test. But it's marginally slower, and it's much better than anything they achieved on day one. I mean, look, today we've got 57.555. Sepang test combined last year was a 5.25, but they are over 6.5 tenths clear of anything they managed to do 12 months ago on the same day. Now, okay, conditions can be different and all this kind of stuff, but it's pretty stable. We go testing in Malaysia every year. The step has been made also by other manufacturers. Let's not get carried away, but positivity at Yamaha.
100%. And I relate back to last year again already. The end of last year, not just the results on track, but also what Fabio Quartararo was saying, what Alex Rins was saying, what the whole team was saying. Of course, a new era as well as coming into 2025 with 2 more bikes on track. That's going to massively help the factory and Yamaha progressed. But yeah, I mean, the times, don't read too much into them at this moment in time, but there's obvious signs of progress for Yamaha. And obviously Fabio doesn't want to get expectations too high too soon. He says he's coming in with no expectations, which is fair enough because, you know, it's sort of unknown for Yamaha at this moment in time. But the signs of progress are 100% there. We can hopefully expect to see Yamaha challenging for podiums, if not wins, probably towards the end of the season, potentially.
And I think as well, Appleyard, Jappel mentioned it over there in Sepang, the mentality has changed. And look at the amount of bikes they've got. They've got 12 bikes there during the test, 3 for each of the riders full-time. 2 for each of the riders, I think, full-time, or 3 for the factory, 2 for the Prima Pramac, and then the 2 more for Augusto. They're taking it absolutely seriously. Keep your questions firing in. We're here all for you guys to talk about this. I mean, it's been a long time since Yamaha have actually done anything worth notable talking about in a positive light. In 2025, is 2025, beg your pardon, the year that Fabio Quartararo returns to winning. Now, that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
Lap times in a test are one thing. We know Fabio can do it. The change of mentality in Yamaha, like anything, is going to take time to filter down to podiums, points, prizes.
At the end of the day, that all depends on how much Ducati improve, how much Aprilia improve, how much KTM improve. Aprilia and KTM are the factories that I think Yamaha need to be focusing on right now. If they can get into the realms of where Aprilia and KTM are operating a lot of times last year, okay, they were pretty not consistent, inconsistent. Ducati may be a bit far away at this moment in time, but I think, can Fabio Quartararo return to winning ways in 2025? The answer is a hesitant yes. A very hesitant yes. He can. Will he is a different question. In my opinion, I think it's going to be difficult to return to winning ways, but I think the first point is challenging for regular top sixes, the meaty end of the points, potentially pushing for podiums as well.
I think as well, the thing is, we've said it before, they're throwing a kitchen sink at it, but also the bike looks visually different. It looks like they've developed it so many times, year after year. The Yamaha comes back from Christmas the same.
Yeah.
This year it's not. And that's exciting. That's why Fabio Quartararo is your top rider for day one. I think they're ready and waiting in Sepang. Lewis and Jack, back over to you guys.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, isn't it, about Fabio Quartararo. The question, and I can understand why many fans ask it, because he is one of the most popular riders in MotoGP. Will Fabio Quartararo return to winning ways this year? My question would be, should we be expecting him to over the course of this season? I guess Yamaha should maybe look to walk before they can run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's not sugarcoat things. Ducati won 19 of the 20 Grand Prix last year. So for anyone other than Ducati to be trying to win races on a regular basis this year is the big question. And for Yamaha, there's a few people ahead of them in the queue at this current moment. So let's go step by step. That's what the team want to do. That's what the top management want to do. So that's exactly what we'll do as well. But what are we, about 6:30, 25 past 6, Lewis? I think I'll pop into the broadcaster set to get ready for some riders to arrive. In the meantime, I think there's one right here that I can step out and introduce. Fermin, should we do a swap? Of course, this man, very impressive today, so I'm sure you'll want to get a word from him. I'll let you take the microphone. You're more important than me, mate. So there you go, all yours.
Thank you.
Fermin, welcome. Welcome, first of all, to After the Flag, but also welcome to MotoGP. Of course, this isn't your first day on the of the week. You, of course, ran at the Shakedown. You, of course, had the day back in Barcelona. Starting to feel like a MotoGP rider now?
Yeah. I'm so happy because after the Shakedown and today, first official test, I think we are doing good work, and I can stay very happy.
Fourth at the end of the day. What are the main things that you're working on over the course of the day on that GP24, of course, which you know is an incredible bike? It won the World Championship last season. What was the plan today?
Yeah, I'm fourth, but today is the first day for all these riders, except the Quartararo and also rookies. But my target is don't look the television, because at the end all these riders go very fast. We have to continue on the good way. We have to continue with the progression, going lap by lap, trying to understand better the electronic, trying to talk better with also my technique, all my team, and after we think about the position and the time.
Yeah, of course, you've got a very experienced crew chief in Frankie Carcetti, who was working with Marc Marquez last year. He's worked with Joan Mir in the past as well. Of course, he was instrumental too in Fabio Gianantonio's rise during that season in 2023. How are you enjoying working with Frankie, and how much is the learning process? How enjoyable is the learning process with Frankie in the box?
No, I'm enjoying a lot with Frankie, because he's an incredible people. It's English, it's England, but he feels like Italian mentality, and yes, he's a little bit crazy, and also me, and I think we understand all together very good, and yeah, I'm very happy for all my technical team.
Well, a positive start. Of course, we're not going to get too excited in the lap times, but certainly the early impressions are positive. So keep up the good work. We look forward to seeing how it progresses through the week, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Leave the microphone there and you can head off on your way. Thanks very much. Fermin Aldeguer there, who was fourth quickest over the course of the day, although as you heard from him there, he's not getting too excited with that. But how excited can we be about Fermin Aldeguer and I guess our rookie crop as a whole? Let's head back to Elliott and Kiko at HQ in Barcelona.
Yeah, the rookies are, it's an interesting one, because last year we came in at such a high L with Pedro Acosta. Yeah. He was always going to come in, rock the boat, do everything we knew he was going to do. He was the headlining star rookie. This year, it's a bit different. Yes, Ogura comes in as the champion, but Firmin's coming in on a known package that Ducati, which won races all the way through last year, it's the reigning champion bike. As well as Somkiat Chantra, which moves into Honda, who are, like Yamaha, in that transition phase. So those are the three rookies for us this year, but very different dynamics to what we had last year.
Yeah, Pedro Acosta is sort of one of a kind. He's touted as the new Marc Marquez. People were saying that coming in last year. He was quick to shy away from those comments, of course, as you would. But Pedro is a special talent that comes around every 10, 15 years. He's one of those types of riders. Now, it's not to say that Firmin, Aldeguer, Ogura and Somkiat Chantra can't do what Acosta's sort of doing in MotoGP eventually, but I think expectations are definitely lower from us, from the fans, from the teams, from everyone in the MotoGP sphere. The expectations are low, but Ogura comes in as a worthy Moto2 champion. Him and Aldeguer especially have really impressed over the shakedown test, back in Barcelona as well, and now here as well. So expectations definitely lower than they were for Acosta, naturally so. But we can definitely expect, for me, Aldeguer and Ogura to be pushing for top 10s, maybe from the word go, maybe a bit too much pressure on them to say that. But I think Firmin especially is on last year's winning bike, the title winning bike. So I don't know how you feel about that, but I think top 10 should be their target. Chantra is of course on a struggling Honda at this moment in time, so they've got a bit more work to do. But all three riders have got really exciting prospects for sure.
I think it's fair to say the generational talents that come every now and then, the Valentinos, the Peccos, the Marks, they're kind of, yes, they are one-offs. But you also have a lot of riders that you don't necessarily anticipate to be top riders, but end up winning races. They're the more methodical ones like Fabio Di Giannantonio. It takes them a year or two to work it out. Let us know anything you are thinking at home. Get in touch with us here right across all our social platforms, Facebook, YouTube, X. Am I missing any more?
Twitch.
Instagram, Twitch, maybe even Snapchat. I don't use that anymore myself. Which of the three rookies are you most excited for? Excited for different reasons. For me, can't wait to see Chantra at home in Thailand, particularly if it rains. I think that's going to be pretty spectacular. Firmin, he's so young, and he's come on to the bike to be. But Ogura in the test, as Jack was saying earlier, was on it.
Ogura is one of them riders who's so methodical, keeps himself to himself. Off the track, he's a very quiet character, very reserved. But once he gets on a motorcycle, he's an absolute demon. Fantastic in the braking zone and just a super consistent rider. We saw Aldeguer at the end of 23 win 4 races in a row. That's when he got the Ducati contract to come into MotoGP, and everyone expected him to go and win the Moto2 title last year. But Ogura was pretty much unstoppable for most of that season, just ultra consistent. Didn't crash much. Even when he got injured, he came out, missed that race and put a second half of the season in that he needs to do to win the title. If I'm asked who am I absolutely most excited about, I would have to say purely on sort of how raw they are still, Firmin Aldeguer, especially on the bike he's on as well. I think he could do some serious damage in terms of taking points off big riders and big factories in the early stages. But I think over the course of the season, we're going to see Ogura climb that ladder into the realms of the top 10, push in the factory Aprilia boys as well, potentially. So I don't know if you agree with me, Kiko. For me, Firmin just edged it. But like you say, Chantra in Thailand, that is going to be an absolute spectacle to watch. And I hope that Chantra and Honda can build on the progress. It's going to be steady progress in the first couple of months. But I think once Chantra gets going, he's a rider to watch for sure.
I'm really excited for Firmin for two reasons. All the reasons you just said. He's young, he's fresh, and he's on that bike that can win. But he's also come a different way. He's had to win the stock title in the Junior GP paddock, and he did that against Moto2 bikes as well. Okay, they're not in the same championship, but they're in the same physical race on the track. Then he does Moto2, then he moves up to the Moto2 World Championship. There are things with Firmin that you have to admire in doing it a slightly different way. He didn't come through the European Talent Cup. He then didn't go to Junior GP, Moto3, Moto2 and up. He's kind of come in at a very kind of middle ground, and he's had to earn it, and he's had to work hard. The change last year, I think didn't see the Firmin that we expected. The tyres, Pirelli coming in, it kind of just changed everything. Firmin now is coming on to a base which, on that bike, with all the data that Gresini will have, Ducati will have, he's got so many more kind of cards to play and places to look for help should he need it. Last year he didn't have that.
and working with Frankie Hargedi as well, who last year worked with Marc
Engineer and a
Marquez
half.
and knows his stuff inside out, knows the Ducati inside out now as well. I think Firmin's only got 67 starts in Grand Prix racing, and he's now in MotoGP. So really exciting prospect is Firmin Aldeguer for sure.
And whilst we're talking about Ducati, let's head back to Sepang, because I think Lewis is with a very, very special guest. He's the person we want to ask all the questions to. It's going to be Davide Tardozzi, and what a job he has on his hands in 2025. Lewis, please ask him how it's going to work out.
Yeah, doesn't he know it? It is a busy season ahead for Ducati and their factory squad. And, of course, the team manager of it all, Davide Tardozzi, joins us. Talk us through your opening day from your point of view. How did it go?
Yeah, today was a good day. The first day of the test is just something that we use to make some comparison towards parts from last year and new parts, and just Marc make a flying lap in the end, while Pecco decide to concentrate this for the next days. He would like to have really information regarding the 2025 bikes and the 24. So in the end, we got some data to analyze tonight with the engineers, and we'll see for tomorrow what it will be the plan.
Yeah, one thing that I know you picked up on at the Barcelona test, and that was a big positive for Ducati, was that the feedback between both Marc and Pecco was very, very similar. Of course, you have Fabio Di Gianantonio as well now who can lend his feedback too. Is the continued feedback aligned between your riders?
Yeah, the riders are mainly in line with some slight small problems, while each one of them is concentrate to improve the bike in the area they feel they are not comfortable, but that's normal. While I think that the answers that Gigi was asking them regarding the new bike are almost the same, so I think that tonight the engineers have some data to analyze and improve the bike tomorrow.
Looking at Pecco Bagnaia, it was so difficult to be critical of Pecco Bagnaia from last season. He won 11 races on a Sunday, which takes some doing, ultimately just falling short of winning the World Championship. What improvements do you still think Pecco Bagnaia can make? What steps do you feel he has to make to ultimately go that one step further this season?
It's funny to say that he's more concentrated to be fast on the left corners where Marc is very fast. Is his main target.
Yeah, you want Marc on the left corners and Pecco on the right corners, and you have the perfect rider.
Yeah, so we have the best rider of the world. But anyway, part the joke, I think that finally we found some good things. Some parts worked very well, some other we have to improve. But anyway, I think that, as I said before, the data that we collect today from both riders are good enough to make a good plan for tomorrow.
We saw towards the end of last season a lot of talk about Pecco Bagnaia's approach to weekends. Of course, he was often falling short of Jorge in the sprints and then would be very strong on the Sunday. Pecco seemed to indicate that there was a change in approach towards the end of last season. Barcelona in particular, he was strong right from the get-go. Did you see that, and do you feel that will translate into this season?
I think that in the end of the season, Pecco did it. I think that this winter he was thinking a lot about what it was the faults of 2024, and I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty confident that he will improve those areas.
And just finally, of course, it's the rivalry that everyone's talking about. I'm sure you hope it's as harmonious as possible between Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. But I guess you knew when you signed Marc Marquez that you were bringing an ultra-competitive world champion into a box with another ultra-competitive world champion. Both riders have already said that they're working together until the racing starts, and then it's every rider for themselves. Is that how you see it?
We knew about this possibility having two world champions, but as
it's not
I
a bad
said,
problem to have.
Yeah, but what I said already before, the feeling in this moment is particularly fine. Also today they work together, they exchange opinions, they talk a lot about the improvement that one had and the other in a different area. So I think that so far everything is fine.
So far, so good then for the factory Ducati team. Davide, thank you very much for joining us. We'll hopefully catch up with you again as we go through the test. We can now head over to the set and hear from Luca Marini, who's with Jack.
So, Luca, I'm excited to hear your comments. First day today, trying the 2025 Honda. How was it?
Yeah, I think it was a positive day. Overall, the general feeling was good. Still, we have to work more on the new bike. Something is positive, something no. So we have to figure it out which is the best compromise for tomorrow. For sure, this will be a long night for the mechanics because we have to mix a little bit everything. But I think for just the first day, it's super positive. We started super fast from the beginning. Then when all the other riders push and make very good lap times, it was a little bit harder for us, like in exactly the same as last year. But John put together a very good lap, so this is interesting. I will gonna have a look on his data and try to hear also his comments, his feedback about today.
Is it the step you wanted?
It's impossible to make a big step in just one day. It will be for sure team work. We need to keep pushing like this. I think Honda made a fantastic winter and bring us very interesting things, but still to work on it.
We know from Barcelona, Aleshi's first feeling was that the engine was a key area that he felt that could be improved. What Honda has brought here, do you feel that in that area the engine is a step forward?
This we have to also to try the next days. Still we have the old engine, but we expect a little bit better, but just a few kilometers more, but will be enough for start the season.
Thanks, Luca.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Luca Marini speaking moments ago. We've already heard from one of the rookies over the course of the show. Fermin Aldeguer joined us here moments ago. Now let's hear from a rookie who caught the eye, no pun intended, at the shakedown over the weekend. We're talking about the Moto2 world champion, Ogura, who put in a very strong sprint simulation. How did he feel his first day here at the Sepang test unfolded? We can get Ogura's reactions live now. He's with Jack.
Yeah, very excited, Ogura, not only to be making his MotoGP debut this weekend, but making his After the Flag debut as well. Looking magnificent on TV for the first time live. Great to have you with us. Talk to us about today. It looked as though it was another positive day, but there was a crash in the middle there, potentially a fast one as well. Firstly, how are you, and talk us through this first day of the test?
Yeah, I had a clash, but I'm okay. And fortunately, no injury, nothing. So, yeah. The conditions were a bit different compared to shakedown days, and I had a different kind of tires, especially before the lunchtime. So I was just adapting to the condition I have, and then from the afternoon I got a tire that I know, and from that point I continue walking. That from my finish from the shakedown to now. So yeah, it was like two different parts in one day. But yeah, I enjoy again on the bike, so it's okay. Yeah.
Just talk us through the crash itself. What happened exactly? Do you understand what happened?
Well, for me the crash was a bit strange, but it wasn't really easy to understand. But I think just tire was a little bit out of the range about the temperature, the air temperature, the ground, or the tires, or whatever. So, well, it was quite fast crash, but I'm okay. So it's the most important things. Yeah.
Now 4 days of riding completed in Malaysia. In these next two coming up, what do you feel is still left for you to work on to get fully ready?
I would say everything, but I don't know. There's a lot to do on the lay space, on the time attack, on just understand the tires, understand the bike, and it's everything. So there's nothing that I can say. This I want to improve. So let's keep walking.
Just finally, a tough day for Aprilia today. Your teammate ruled out for the rest of the test. A big one for Jorge as well. Let's hope that he's okay and might be able to rejoin. If it comes about that Jorge can't ride for the rest of the test as well, are you ready to maybe have to try and look at a few new parts and try and help Aprilia at all, or do you not think that will be the case?
I don't think so. Bez is still there, so maybe that's his part. But well, yeah, as I said, unfortunately, today we miss Jorge and Raul, and normally we have 4 data to share, but today it was just 2 datas for sure. So, well, I hope they are back as soon as they can, and I want to work together with all 4 riders. So I hope they're okay.
Thanks, Ai. Great to hear from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was good to hear from Ogura, and I feel like we're going to enjoy hearing from the Moto2 World Champion over the course of the season. Seems completely unflappable, seems unfazed by the pressure that's surely going to be on him from Japan, of course, as being Japan's sole representative on a regular basis, at least, in MotoGP this season. Just seems to be taking this all in his stride, and you can't help but be impressed by the way that Ogura handles himself. Of course, even if he isn't going to be carrying a lot of the load from an Aprilia point of view, he is Trackhouse's sole rider now for the rest of the test. If you're just joining us, confirmation once again that Raul Fernandez will miss the rest of the test. He's flying back to Barcelona tonight for an operation on his injury that he sustained this morning. Well, as you can see, we're ready to hear from KTM's Brad Binder. Let's get the thoughts of the South African now with Jack.
Brad, day 1 done here at the Sepang test. How was it for you?
It was actually pretty decent. The first day is always a little bit tricky, just to really try and find your speed again. But yeah, in general, I'm pretty happy. We had a lot to try today, and we did a lot of different runs with different parts and different things. So yeah, I'm super happy with all the work we did. For sure, now it's a good time for us to really sit down and evaluate everything and try to put it together for tomorrow. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how we can progress tomorrow.
Only day 1, but from what you tried today, happy with what KTM have brought?
Definitely. I think we have touched some of our issues for sure, and now it's all about just really seeing what we got. You know, I think they split the job between all 4 riders, so I know what worked on my side, and it'll be really good later to sit and understand what worked for everybody else too. So I think by the end of this test, once we put all the positives together from everybody, for sure, I think we can have a really good step forward.
You spoke yesterday with the media about wanting to be able to maximise that rear tyre to stop the spin that you were having throughout the course of last year, and we've seen today slightly redefined seat units, maybe just changing the balance of the bike around a little bit. Has that resulted in what you're wanting? Has it lessened those issues?
Well, it seems like the rear grip or drive grip we seem to touch something in that area a little bit. Really small at the moment, but for sure it's always interesting because you know, when they change something and you see the difference in that area, it always gives you an idea where to work. So yeah, pretty good day, I would say, and let's try again tomorrow.
Cheers, Brad.
Thank you.
Brad Binder there speaking to Jack Appleyard. Of course, as we discussed a little bit earlier on in the show, there has been a lot of talk around KTM off the track. Certainly on the track, the word from KTM is that it is business as usual. And certainly the indication from what we saw on track is the case. Both Brad Binder and Pedro Acosta competitive today. Pedro Acosta was as high as 2nd at one stage over the course of the day. And of course, Pedro Acosta will be hoping that this season is where he makes that big step up, having missed out on that maiden MotoGP victory over the course of last year. For some extra analysis, once again, we can head back to HQ. Elliott and Kiko standing by.
Thank you, Lewis. Yeah, we're still here, and you talk about Pedro Acosta just missing out. He did bag a pole. He got plenty of podiums throughout last year, but the question never really goes away from KTM. They haven't quite got there yet in terms of track performance, getting those standard Grand Prix in normal conditions, normal sunny day. Haven't quite got there in terms of being regularly able to win. Now, with 4 factory riders this year, such as the factory team in the IO team, which is Binder and Acosta, but then you've got the new lineup of Bastianini and Vinales, which is absolutely mouthwatering prospect because they've got so much experience from other manufacturers to drag KTM up.
Yeah, this lineup that we just saw, these two obviously in the factory team, Binder and Acosta, but couple those pair with Vinay Bastianini and Maverick Vinales, that is a quartet that is really, really strong. only Acosta isn't a race winner yet in MotoGP, but Acosta is really, really exciting prospect. But let's go back to Sepang.
Yeah, live in Sepang to be joined by Pecco Bagnaia after his opening day of the Sepang test. Pecco, tell us about it. How was it?
Like always, first day of test is impressive. The speed that our bike have. It's super shocking in the first laps, but I enjoyed the day. But honestly, with the amount of tires we have that are not that much, I didn't have the chance to really enjoy pushing because I was knowing that today the maximum amount of laps was more or less 50 with just one set of correct tires, and like this is more difficult. But for tomorrow, doing a day like today help us for tomorrow to have more tires and have more chance to push and understand more things.
Was it a successful day? Were you able to make any decisions, get any ideas of what the direction is going to be?
We were able to filter a lot of things, and this will help us a lot for the next days. But like I said, we didn't have that much time to really understand what the new bikes is giving, what was better, what if is better of the new one, of the old one. But I think right now is still a lot of work to do. The previous one was a fantastic bike, the GP24, and we are a bit far till, but the potential looks great. So let's see.
Gigi told us after Barcelona and then again at the launch that the engine they brought there just needed a few little tweaks to be ready for 2025. What they brought here, did it fix those problems?
I think it's a step in front compared to Barcelona, but still some margin to improve because luckily we have 2 more days, hoping that we will not have any rain, and we need some time to understand in which area and which direction go with the setup and also with the electronics. Marc did a similar job than me, but and we are more or less with the same idea. So this is great, and let's see tomorrow.
Just finally as well, I'm sure you'll have seen the big crash of Jorge today, a man you've had such great battles with and are good friends with as well. What did you make of that crash? And I'm sure you want to give your best to him as well.
I really hope that he don't feel any pain because the crash was insane. Honestly, today was a day to sacrifice a bit, and riding with the wrong tire was not the best because the other spec was really ungrippy, but was in a lucky situation. He crashed in the first chrono, so and it was a huge crash. I don't know if he's feeling well, but I hope so.
Thanks, Pecco. Chat to you tomorrow.
Grazie.
Plenty of analysis there. We had to just jump back to Sepang because Pecco was ready and waiting, and obviously people want to hear more about Pecco than they do about us. I'm absolutely fairly sure of that one. Get your questions sent in, of course. Pecco versus Marc. It's a big topic. One straight in already. Pecco and Marc, how would you manage the situation within the team if you were Davide Tardozzi? Right, I'm not Davide Tardozzi, so we're not answering that. No, honestly, I think it's going to be very difficult to manage because how do you? You've got Pecco, who's the established Ducati golden boy. You got Marc, who is Marc Marquez. And that's not to say Pecco isn't at Marquez's level of popularity, but Marc comes with weight.
Yeah, I think if it was me in Davide Tardozzi's shoes, I'd run a mile. No, but jokes aside, I think it's going to be, for us from the outside, it's going to be difficult. But Davide is so experienced, knows these riders inside out, has worked with a whole host of different personalities. He's there for a reason, let's be honest. Davide is going to know how to manage this situation, but looking from the outside in, it's going to be one that's probably his most challenging one yet, you'd have to feel, because it was very harmonious between Enea Bastianini and Pecco Bagnaia, of course, 2 Italians working together. Enea not really quite in the title fight, and especially in the latter half of last season was a great teammate to Pecco. But these 2 are not going to be as harmonious as Bastianini either and Pecco were. So I think it's going to be difficult to manage, but and we're going to see that as well behind the scene cameras, of course, throughout the season. It's going to be really interesting to follow this story, but it's going to be difficult. But they'll do the best job they can, and Gigi as well has got a really difficult task on his hands.
There's no wall up yet, but give it some time. Of course, we've seen Ducati throughout so many years in MotoGP have to make these difficult decisions. And you know, it's not going to be easy right the way through 2024. Lewis, I can see you're ready and waiting in Sepang. News, I think, is about to hit the MotoGP paddock.
Certainly is. The news has just dropped here in Sepang. Breaking news here at the Sepang International Circuit. Day one of the Sepang test is Jorge Martin's last of this test. We've had the official confirmation moments ago. Jorge Martin has been ruled out of the remainder of this Sepang test. Now, just to bring you back up to speed once again, if you're just joining us, he had 2 crashes this morning over the course of the first 14 laps, his only 14 laps. This was the second of them. Coming into turn number 2, you saw the rear stepping out there and firing Jorge Martin, the reigning world champion, over the top of his factory Aprilia. No sooner had he gone out on the bike that had the number 1 sported on the front of it, and it threw him to the tarmac, and unfortunately with some injuries, we believe fractures for Jorge Martin to his left foot and his right hand. Jorge Martin has been ruled out of this Sepang test. We await further news, of course, over the next week as to whether Jorge Martin is going to be in any shape at all to take part in the Buriram test next week at the Chang International Circuit. And of course, this does have to put some serious question marks as to whether Jorge Martin will be able to start his World Championship defence on the opening weekend of March. 28th of February, 1st and 2nd of March, the opening Grand Prix of the season, the Thai Grand Prix in Buriram. Jorge Martin, I guess, has to be considered a doubt for that. He has been ruled out of the remainder of this Sepang test. So that is the news just reaching us here in Sepang. And of course, that is the news that's going to dominate the MotoGP Reddit threads. It's going to dominate social media. It's going to dominate MotoGP.com. And Kiko and Elliott, the worst possible start to Jorge Martin's title defence.
Couldn't be worse, Lewis. If you're just joining us here at MotoGP HQ, Martin out of the remainder of this Sepang test. We've seen the crash numerous times. It doesn't get an easier watch. But what a way to not start the season. I mean, I can't remember a year where, before we've even begun, one of the favourites out like that.
Well, the world champion out of the Sepang test and potentially next week as well in Buriram, and that just puts him on the back foot completely. He had a lot of work to do, of course, jumping onto the Aprilia bike that needs to be improved a little bit to match the Ducati. And just expectations from all of us, seeing the number 1 on the Aprilia, Jorge Martin, we were all so intrigued to see how this pre-season was going to go for the world champion, and for it to end like that within sort of the first hour of the Sepang test is hugely disappointing. Send our best wishes to Jorge, of course. Fractures in his right hand and fractures in his foot as well. Surgery, he's flying back to Europe tonight. Hopefully surgery ASAP. Let's just hope. I don't think he's going to be in Thailand for the test, but let's keep our fingers crossed that he's going to be okay to at least ride at the Thai Grand Prix at the end of the month. And
there's so many dynamics that follow on from this, El. I am aware we're waiting for Marc Marquez, so we're going to try and evaluate very quickly here. So if we have to go, we will. But we are looking at Thailand as the season opener, the Buriram test. Thailand's hot. Buriram's really hot in March. Then after that, you've got all the flight over to Argentina. America, Kota, not a track you want to be riding with injury. Then the 4th round, Losail, okay, a track everyone knows, but again, physical. They're the first 4 rounds, and that's before we get to Europe, and when the season really takes flight throughout Europe. That's 4 rounds, and this is with a new bike as well. More on that later, I think, because we are going to go to Malaysia again. Back to Sepang, it's Lewis who's there waiting for us. Lewis, some thoughts from you as well, I suppose, because not a good start for the reigning champions title defence.
No, certainly not. Jorge Martin on his back foot. He has 3 fractures, we believe, on his left foot. 3 of his toes are broken, in addition to the injuries to his metacarpal in his right hand as well. But we are joined, just before we go off the air here at the Sepang test, by the 8 times world champion. Marc Marquez is listening to us. Thanks for joining us, Marc. Second at the end of the day. Tell us your story of day 1 of the Sepang test. How happy are you with it?
Yeah, of course, we started in a good way, but first of all, I heard that you were talking about Martin, and yeah, we wish to him, to the champion, a great recovery. I don't know the value of the fractures or the injuries, but yeah, big hug to him. And yeah, from our day, we started in a good way, especially because I felt good from the beginning, and this makes everything easier, and the way to be precise in the comments is makes different if you feel better or worse with the bike, and yeah, I feel well from the beginning, so I was precise on the comments, and the most important is that we start to work a lot together with all the team, with me, Pecco, and all the engineers to try to understand this 2025 bike, try to fix all the small problems that are normal when you put a new bike on the track, and yeah, let's see if tomorrow we can improve.
Do you have a clear direction now in terms of the bike that you want to bring to the Buriram test and to the first Grand Prix of the season? From the work you've done today, do you feel clear in the direction you want to go in?
No, still we have 2 days to go, and a plus Thailand test, but especially here, still we have a lot of things to try. And yeah, today we concentrate a lot on that engine, because it's one of the most important things, because when you homologate the engine, then you keep for all season. So very important that me and Pecco, we had the same comment, then we start to share the work. He working one side, I working on the other side, to try to fix the problem that we found, and yeah, the engineers did a very good job, very good plan, but still 2 days to go to keep improving.
Of course, many are looking at Ducati to see if Gigi is going to pull anything out of his bag of tricks, any new parts potentially heading your way. Do you know the plan for tomorrow? Do you know the program ahead of us and looking forward to the rest of the test? Have you been already briefed by Ducati as to what you can expect tomorrow?
No, still I don't know the program for tomorrow. I knew that today was more concentrated on the engine, and tomorrow we will see. Still now they need to analyze everything, because yeah, we had a few problems there, but I understand why Ducati have one or the best bike of the grid, because they were very brave. I mean, very calm when they found the problem, and they were able to fix. So tomorrow continue the same plan, try to be closer and closer to the top guys, and yeah, let's see.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Marc. We wish you well for the rest of the test, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Marc Marquez joining us live on After the Flag. We are just about out of time, but before we bid you farewell for the night, we can cross back to Barcelona one last time for some closing comments from Elliott and Kiko.
Yeah, I mean, what a day. Closing comments, we're going to need a lot. We are out of time because there's been so much going on. That's the reason why. If you are just joining us, of course, the news that Jorge Martin is out of the Sepang test. Raul Fernandez is out of the Sepang test. Marc is second. Yamaha are on top. Pecco's outside the top 10. Where do we start, El?
Well, I mean, the breaking story is, of course, Jorge Martin being ruled out. Desperately bad news for Aprilia, for Martin, and for us as well as fans. We want to see Martin on track and developing that Aprilia, and as Raul as well, experienced rider on the Aprilia, helping progress that machine. Hopefully less dramatic tomorrow. We're going to obviously go back to the drawing board, see what happens in terms of the day tomorrow, see what we analyse over the coming couple of days. Hopefully we get some time attacks and some long runs to get our teeth stuck into. That's going to be really interesting, I think, over tomorrow, and especially on day 3, we're going to see some time attacks come in. So that's going to be interesting. Less dramatic in terms of crashes, hopefully, but plenty to talk about already in MotoGP in 2025.
Don't forget, the test continues going into tomorrow, going into Friday. We've got the LCR Honda team launch on Saturday, and the big one for the first time ever in MotoGP on Sunday. Can't wait to see it. The Bangkok launch show. You don't want to miss it. The tickets are free to enter. Go and meet the riders. Go and be part of it. Louis, Jack, back to you. And let's hope tomorrow's a little bit calmer.
Well, certainly we want drama, but not the kind of drama we've seen today, and Jack will be a part of that very special season launch in Bangkok. So certainly keep your eyes out for that one in the coming weekend. But some final thoughts then, Jack, as we look ahead to day 2 of the test. First of all, 2 things. We're expecting a lot more new parts to be thrown at it, the likelihood of some long runs to come over the course of the next 2 days. But I guess the overwhelming story of today is none of that's going to include Jorge Martin. Yeah, absolutely. The overriding story, the big headline from today, the fact that the world champion ruled out of the opening test of the year after just 14 laps. I was down at the Aprilia box just then, desperately trying to get some live reaction from Massimo Rivola, but as you can understand, he's speaking at the moment with some of the guys back in Europe to try and work out where they go from here. We will be speaking to him in around half an hour's time. That interview will be available on MotoGP.com, and of course you'll be able to hear it right here on After the Flag tomorrow. Yeah, fingers crossed that Jorge Martin and of course Ralph Fernandez, we can't forget him as well, the only 2 riders that unfortunately suffered big crashes and are ruled out. But wow, after so much optimism, so much positivity coming into 2025 for Aprilia, wow, in both terms, haven't they come crashing back down to earth? They certainly have. Well, we thank you for your company. My thanks to Jack, my thanks to Kiko and to Elliott back at HQ for joining us. More from them tomorrow. But that's all we've got for tonight. Day 1 of the Sepang test is in the books. Quartararo quickest, but the world champion is sidelined. We will see you from Sepang tomorrow.